I will serve as the timekeeper this evening. We have a timer over here where each candidate can see as it relates to their 2 minutes. Once I pass this off, that will be it for me for the evening, and I will give you to Mr. Calvin Cunning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I first like to say goodwill is the monarch of this house. Men and women collectively enter, depart friends. Okay? The instructions that Mr. Sutton has given you are going to be as follows. I'm going to start with number 1 for each person, and then we're going to go back up the ladder, okay? If you have any questions, please save them for me later on. With that being said, I have a number of important questions that Mr. Sutton has admitted that we'll be asking this evening. Let me first have you introduce everyone up there yourselves. I'll introduce Mr. Tim Henderson.
Good evening. I'm Tim Henderson. I'm originally from the Mississippi Delta, Cleveland, Mississippi. I moved to Jackson in 2014, and I was brought here by the United States Air Force. I worked Air Force ROTC at Jackson State, and I retired out of Jackson State after 24 plus years in the United States Air Force. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel. I'm currently a consultant in the space industry. A little bit about my background. I have held a broad range of assignments in the United States military. I've managed programs that have totaled over hundreds of millions of dollars, and I've had teams of people dispersed across the country. So I bring with me a set of executive skills that I know that this city needs at this point in time. I don't have a problem with hard situations. Rarely, if ever, in the military did you ever have enough money or resources to do the work that needs to be done. That's a little bit about me. More of my resume is on my website. Why am I running for mayor? I think that's what's important. People are struggling in this city. People are suffering. There's blood running through the streets in this city. There are challenges economically. There are challenges with our housing in our communities. We've lost touch with each other as a city and as a collective. Leadership is now needed to be able to bring people back together, to develop that connective tissue that we need to feel connected back to the city again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next individual, Mr. Tim Henderson.
It's getting hot up here. Can I smile for a minute? I feel like I'm pretty tight right now. Jackson's most pressing issue or issues. We know that there's a crime issue. We know that there are infrastructure issues. We know that there's challenges with economic development, holding on to businesses that are here, businesses that are fleeing. There's a middle class flight still occurring. But I want to take it one layer beneath that. I think some of our most pressing issues right now deal with public trust. The electorate has been let down so many times until they just don't know what direction to go in or what to do or how to go about doing it. Public trust is an issue. Education is an issue in our city. We've had all these school closures. We have all the challenges that are occurring with discipline in the schools, the amount of money that is coming through JPS. I got a lot of questions. I had an economic roundtable, and one of the things I asked was, what is the main problem for economic development in this city? Education. If we're going to move this city, we've got to fix education. Education is the premise behind drawing in the businesses, drawing in the professionals, being able to grow this city. So education is a key entity that I'm going to be focused on. The other thing is human infrastructure. Human infrastructure. Are we investing in our young people? Are we making sure that our elderly know that they're not forgotten? Do we have jobs in this city where young people know that they have a future? This environment represents the opportunity of a lifetime for us to come together and for you, the people, to have a voice in moving the city forward. Thank you.
Mr. Tim Henderson.
Yes, how do you curb crime? There are several ways to do that. First of all, there has to be a deterrent. You've got to have something in place that makes sure people don't want to commit the crime in the first place, and if they do that, they know that there are going to be consequences. My vision for that, though, is a joint task force that is comprised of local municipality law enforcement, state and federal entities. Why is that? Because depending on what needs to be done, you've got all the right people in the room with the right legal authorities to prosecute where it needs to be done, right? So when people understand you're going to go to jail for a long time, that's one way to deter the crime. I like to also invest on the front end. How do we stop the bullet from getting in the gun? How do we let these young people know, the perpetrators of crime know, that there are other options and other opportunities for them in life and in this world? With the state of affairs in this city, it does not boggle my mind why children believe and feel the way they do. When you riding down the street, walking down the street, and everything is just destitute and in despair, you go into a mindset of desperation. And so we've got to change the idea about how we feel about our city, take some pride back, and give our young people options. Community-oriented policing. I have some friends that I have a law enforcement advisory council that I'm standing up. This is going to be key on top of the list. We're going to get to a point with the resources to be able to get police and law enforcement back in touch with the community so that you feel safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. The next questions, I want you to pay strict close attention to it. Hope it's coming from everyone's heart. How can the city of Jackson effectively curb gun crimes with the permissive gun laws that we have in the state of Mississippi?
I think it's important to understand, first of all, that there's a glorified gun culture, right? Amongst our youth today, in certain segments of our population, guns are glorified. The issue and the question is access to guns. How are they getting them? We call it interdiction. How do you get in front of that gun being purchased and ending up in the hands of somebody who doesn't have any business with it? And I think that back to the joint task force, again, having the right law enforcement personnel that are teamed up, a task force, group of folks with one objective and common perspective to be able to go after what we need to do to get these guns off the street. There are other things that have been tried in the past, gun buybacks, amnesty when you turn guns in. There are a lot of ways we can go do this. This will be a question. I'm not going to go any further, but this will be one of those things that I'm already asking some people. One, why do we have so many guns on the street, and where are they coming from? Now, I have a theory on that. I'll share that. Jackson, Mississippi sits at the crossroads of I-55 and I-20. There's a lot of traffic come through this city. You coming from the coast, you coming from Florida, you coming from Texas, you're traversing north and south, east and west. So there are some things going on in this city that are not being talked about or not being addressed. And so we're going to get to the root of it, and we're going to get these guns off the street. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Henderson.
Yes, sir. The first thing you got to do is set the environment to encourage home builders to come in, right? Market rate housing, you've got to have a mix. You got to have market rate housing, but you also need housing that's affordable, quality affordable housing. I didn't say affordable housing. I said quality affordable housing. You're going to need different price points. It's interesting, I just had this conversation. You need houses at the $100,000, $150,000 level. You need houses at the $300,000, $500,000, whatever we need in the city of Jackson. But you've got to set the environment for that, right? Home builders are not going to come in the current state. You've got to go back and fix education. You've got to cut the red tape down at City Hall that streamlines the processes and allows for there to be a more streamlined approach without all the headaches for builders and folks that are doing construction to be able to get the job done and not have to wait 3 or 4 months on a permit. I said something then, didn't I? So you've got to set the right environment that makes people want to come in. While you're doing that, you're going to see an economic boom. You're going to see a boom because you're going to be fixing the infrastructure. You're going to have businesses coming back. Once this water is really fixed and we got these streets straight and you got crime brought down, you've set the environment for an economic boom. And we got to clean up the streets. We got to clean this city up, right? And we've got to get down to the community level where we're all taking pride in our own street again. In that point, you begin to see a housing reboom. You'll see a housing boom in the city of Jackson. Thank you.
How do you plan to deal with homeless people living in abandoned houses in residential areas, Mr. Henderson?
That's a great question. And actually, I've already begun to look at options for that. I have a gentleman that I know personally out of Dallas, Texas. He's been linked up with some folks. They have what they call some pods. They are studio, 1-bathroom pods. And we have been looking at housing for vulnerable populations. Let me say that. Because everybody we see does not mean that they have stable housing. I have an office in the medical mall. I have that office because I wanted to meet the people. I want the people to meet me. I need to understand their issues. I've had a husband-wife couple come in my office in the medical mall. You walk past them, you would never know that they were living in one of these abandoned houses. Because I asked, I said, where do you live? They said, Bandos. I've never heard of that in Jackson. Bandos, abandoned house. I've had a young man, single man, who said that he lives in one of those abandoned houses. But these folks, if you see them, this is a humanity issue in this city at this point. And so there are opportunities already that exist. I've talked to the folks at the Merely Ever Center that's right across from my office. They said there is not enough housing for anybody in this city. They had somebody who got on the HUD list, and that man was number 1,700. So we've got to come up with some solutions. And like I said, I've already been looking at this issue. I've got somebody that has the ability to get some of these pods to fix this issue. But I need us to understand that homelessness are not just the people we see walking the street. Just today, there was a woman in the medical mall that I talked to, her and her mother. I said, what are the issues that you think can be fixed? She said, homelessness, because I'm homeless. I live with my mother, but I don't have a place of my own to stay. I don't have a job where I can really earn the money that I need. We're going to fix it, though. Thank you.
Please give the candidates a round of applause. And on behalf of Greater Pearly Grove MB Church and our entire church family, we want to thank you all for taking the time out this evening. And we want to do everything decent and in order. We started on time. We're going to end on time to give you an opportunity to go and talk to the candidates and fellowship at the end. So again, thank you for coming out and good evening.
Great, man.